Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the round number 3 of the Time Attack Championship. We are into the second half of the season, and today there is a completely new challenge for the drivers because we are at the Grand Valley South Circuit. So, compared to the tracks that we've had so far this season, we've started the season at Lago Maggiore East End, and then round number 2 was around Brands Hatch Indy. Grand Valley South, the shorter layout, is completely different to the previous two tracks. Yes, there is still a very tight, technical, slow section of the track, but the biggest difference is that this track is a lot longer. And not only that, there is a massive straight starting from the penultimate corner and all the way into turn 1. Well, turn 2 effectively. Turn 1 is completely flat out. So, today, the drivers are going to have to adapt their driving style, and hopefully they have adapted their cars, because if previously there was more of a focus towards the handling of the cars, most likely today we are going to see a lot more top speed action. So drivers most likely going to be sacrificing handling performance for the top speed, because we have seen that, especially around Brands Hatch, we've seen this battle between Lepa in the Honda NSX and Callum in Alpine A110, where it was clear that Callum was faster in the Alpine through the first and second sectors, which are more technical. But in the third sector, it looks like the power of NSX was just too much for the Alpine to handle. And today, we have an even bigger straight to contend with. So, speaking of last round, let's take a look at the ballast for this race. Unfortunately, if you remember, Callum finished second in round number 2, but unfortunately was disqualified due to the incorrect weight on the car. So he scored, unfortunately, no points around Brands Hatch Indy. But Lepa kept his win, and that meant that he's going to be carrying the full success ballast of 100 kilograms for around number 3, around Grand Valley South. Sick moves up one position, while everybody finishing below Callum from the last round are going to be moving up one position. Sick in the Ferrari. Huge achievement to still finish second, even with the max ballast that he was carrying last week. 80 kilograms for him this week, which allowed him to probably add a little bit more power to the car. But it's important to keep in mind that yesterday there was a massive update on Gran Turismo 7 that changed a lot of PP rating on many cars. So there are going to be different effects for different cars. Some people actually found more room to play with, so they made their cars even better. For some people, it was the complete opposite. They had to slow their cars down, probably drop the power or increase, or they can't increase weight. So it was all about dropping the power or having less downforce, or actually more downforce to produce drag in order to comply with the regulations. SBY finishing in P3 last week, 60 kilograms. Ruben in the beautiful BMW CSL with 40 kilograms of ballast. Mitch, who's unfortunately not going to be taking part in round number 3 in the Mustang and in the rest of the season. So that is it for a beautiful looking Mustang. And Tap Shooter finishing in P6 last week, 10 kilograms of extra weight. And if you're new to the championship, it's time to remind you that drivers have built their own cars for this championship. So there are technical regulations that drivers have to follow in order to compete in this championship. Their cars must be 550 performance points or lower, 1100 kilos or heavier, and they must produce 350 brake horsepower or less. They all must be rear-wheel drive, and everyone is using sport medium tires. Nitro system and engine swaps are banned, as well as the fully customizable racing transmission. So, we've seen the cars that drivers chose thus far this season. Devil, who finished P2 in round 1, is returning for this round as well, which is very good to see. He was in a very strong contention for that win in round one, and most importantly, he doesn't have any extra ballast to contend with for this round, so he's going to be probably the contender for the win in round number 3 of Time Attack Championship, alongside probably Lepa, because I've been informed that the success ballast didn't really have much of an effect on this car. So we're going to see if he's going to be able to challenge the rest of the leaders for the win today. And before we jump into the warm-up session, let's take a quick look at the championship standings as of after round 2. Sick is currently leading the championship by 19 points. Would have been a lot closer if Callum didn't get disqualified, but still, it's not over by any means because Lepa, after very strong round 2, well, actually, the strongest round you can have, a win, already up into P4 in the standings. SBY, without a finishing position higher than second, is currently second in the championship, 19 points behind Sick. So we'll see how the championship plays out, because we have a very interesting end to the Time Attack Championship today. We are at a very different track, a much longer track that the drivers are used to, and with a lot of emphasis on the straight line speed. That is important to remember. And just as a quick reminder, we are going to be finishing the season at Suzuka East. Probably a perfect balance around this track between top-end speed and handling. Because if you don't know, the East track is basically just the first sector of the full track. So you go through the first corner, then the S's, and then you turn right back onto the main straight. So the track is basically perfectly split in the middle between corners and the main straight. So, and there is also a possibility of rain in the final round of the championship. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. The weather is completely random, but it is definitely another thing that drivers have to think about. Right before we jump into the warm-up session, just a quick reminder that if you are watching this live, there is a prediction going on in the Twitch chat at the moment. You can bet on whether the fastest lap of the session is going to be faster than 1 minute 17 seconds 0.0. So get your channel points in the prediction, and that will hopefully spice up the interest for this round even more, if it wasn't already very interesting. All right, so let's quickly jump into the warm-up session and see what drivers are up to. Here we are. We're currently 6 cars readied up. We are waiting on 2 more, I believe. But let's take a look. Who is the fastest in the session at the moment? Lepa already with 1 minute 17.004. So that is your reference for your predictions if you are going to bet any channel points on it. Tap, actually, in P2, quite an underdog this season, but so far, was just moved down to P3 momentarily, but 1.5 tenths behind leaders. Didn't have that great of a season thus far, but all of it might change today. We just witnessed another very special and very annoying thing about this track, is that the track limits are quite strong around here. You are obviously going to be losing time going over the sand on the edge of the track, but the game doesn't agree. It thinks that you actually gain time doing that. So track limits are brutal. These corners, these tight, twisty corners through the S section of the track are very tricky to navigate, and it's very easy to push the limits too far. But Callum into the 16s in this warm-up session. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes until we begin our time session. Is Lepa into the 16s as well? Looks like he's not, actually. So we only have Callum in the Alpine at the moment, who's into 1 minute 16s, and it's actually quite surprising. I didn't expect the Alpine to be the fastest car around here, but after all, it's not all about the car, it's also about the drivers. So we'll see if Callum is finally going to be able to claim a win this season. We are closing in on the end of the championship. The coming seasons are going to be a little bit longer than 4 rounds. We're currently in the exhibition season, technically. Can we jump on board with Callum? No, unfortunately not. But this corner right here, the fast downhill right, left, right, is very important to your lap time, but it's so easy to make mistake there. Callum with a little bit of a slide there, but it's only a warm-up session. This is why the drivers are able to test their cars, test the conditions, because in the actual time session, they're going to be identical to what they are right now. So drivers are free to make any changes as long as they're allowed by technical regulations to their cars before we begin our timed session. I've also heard from the drivers, before we get to that, Callum just got half a second penalty, and I have no idea what for. I didn't notice him go off the track at all, so that just shows you how brutal the track limit penalties are around here. But, as I would say, I've heard from a lot of drivers that fuel is going to be a big factor this round. In the previous 2 rounds, we didn't quite see that many improvements in the second half, like in the later stages of the time session. But here, from what I heard, having low fuel in your car is very important. So it's probably all going to unravel at the very end of the session, because that's when the cars are going to be at their lightest. And this is where all the improvements are probably going to come in. We've got about 4 minutes until we begin the time session. Currently 6 cars, I think. Yeah, 6 cars ready up. Good. We are missing 2. But it's fine. The round is still going to go ahead regardless. You need at least 2 cars to have a time attack session, so it doesn't matter how many we have. Obviously, it would be nice to have a full grid, but hoping that the championship is only going to grow for the upcoming seasons. Lepa really pushing the limits of his Honda NSX here. It's going to be interesting to see the difference in the top speed between different cars. Obviously, you have to choose whether you want more downforce for the corners or you want less downforce for the straight line. It's going to be interesting to see in what direction drivers went. What did they do with their cars in preparations for this round? Lepa up to the line. Is he going to improve on 16.9? He does not. Probably not the best of exits out of the final corner. There we have KC joining the lobby, who was unfortunately disqualified immediately from last week's time session due to having an illegal car. He did manage to bring it to within the limits of the technical regulations. Unfortunately, the car itself, stock, wasn't within the technical regulations, so hopefully he's going to have a new and most important illegal car this round, so we could classify him as well. Oh, huge penalty for Lepa. Alright, before we start, let's confirm that we're not waiting on anyone. Alright, so we are currently waiting on one driver to arrive, and as soon as they're here, we are going to start our time session. So we are going to be a few minutes late, but not that big of a deal, so we should see him join very soon. Oops. And there we go. There is Ruben joining. Let's quickly remind them to ready up as soon as they can. There we go. Just waiting for Ruben to join, and then we can start a timed session. No worries at all. We're only a few seconds late, so it's perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine. We have a second repeating car, as KC is in the Toyota GR86, just like Tab Shooter, so it's going to be interesting to see which one of these cars performs better. Looks like there's a lot more aero on KC's car compared to Tab's, but we'll see what approach is actually better. Only waiting on Ruben to ready up, and then we are good to go. Start qualify, which is going to be our time session. Let's go. I'm going to quickly back out and obviously spectate. I'm not participating in this championship. And there we go. Drivers are underway for the round number 3 of the Time Attack Championship. The first one to leave the pits is Devil, by the looks of it, in Nissan 180SX. Probably one of the main contenders for the win today, due to being very fast, driving a very fast car without any success ballast, due to missing round number 2. Looks like almost everyone is immediately out of the pits. Few cars are still waiting to go out, but it's very sunny to start the session with a quite strong side wind on the main straight. We'll see if it's going to bring any inconveniences for drivers, but hopefully not. All those cars just sound beautiful, I will be honest with you. Such a pleasure listening to them, and obviously watching the drivers push the absolute limits of these cars to extract as much pace out of them as possible. This final corner, well, technically it's a penultimate corner, but the final corner where you don't have to, where you do have to brake, is very important to your lap time, because it basically sets you off for the whole main straight here, which is very important to your lap time. But here we go with the first flying lap of the session, with Devil on the brakes into turn 1. A little bit wide, but you can make it work if you cut back on the exit immediately on the power. Quite a good exit. We'll see how he handles the fast downhill section. You want to get as close to the edge of the track as possible without dipping your wheels onto the sand. And this left-hander right here, it's very important not to cut it, because you are going to get an immediate and huge penalty there. So far, it seems like a fairly clean lap, but obviously, none of these laps that we're going to see at the very beginning are going to be the fastest for the drivers, because fuel is going to play a big role in lap times tonight. A little bit on the sand there. We'll see what the game thinks about it. Is it going to be a penalty for Devil? Doesn't look like it, or quite a sizable, quite a noticeable slide through the final corner, through the tunnel. Takes the shortest line possible through there. Stays over, well, mainly to the middle of the track. Let's see what the first time lap is going to be. Oh, 16.3. That's miles faster than everything we've seen in the warm-up session. Leper immediately into P2 with 16.5. So very promising, considering he's carrying 100 kilos of extra weight. SBY and Tab with slightly less representative laps at the moment. Callum with a penalty, so his previous lap didn't count by the looks of it. Yep, 16.6, but it was with a track limits violation, so it didn't count. It would have been P3. Sick, currently up into the final podium position with a 17.494, but I've heard from Sick that Ferrari is very difficult to drive around here, and it's not the strongest in terms of straight line speed, And all of these corners might be very tricky for the Ferrari to navigate through. As I say that, goes purple through Sector 1, but then, yeah, a penalty and huge slides to go with. Probably not going to do well for his lap. All right, Devil up to the line for the second following lap. Is there going to be an improvement? Let's see, 14, 15, 16, no improvement. What about Leper? No improvement as well. Callum, it's not going to be his... Well, it is going to be a lap that counts, but it's quite slow due to him serving a penalty. Tap up to the line. 17.8. Very, very solid result. Up into P4 at the moment. Sick is going to have to abandon this lap and the next one as well due to having a penalty. That is an annoying thing about this track. Would have been a 16.8. Would have been somewhere close, much closer to Leper. But this is an annoying thing about this track is that if you pick up a penalty, you lose 2 laps essentially. The one where you picked up a penalty because it's not going to count, and the next one because you're going to have to serve your penalty in the middle of the lap. Almost 3/10 purple through the first sector, but it's not going to matter due to the penalty. That is why this is probably going to be the most difficult track to extract any sort of pace out of your car, at least this season. Devil is one of the few cars without a penalty. We still have one car waiting in the pits, and as I say that, Ruben is out of the pits for his flying laps. Oh, 16.0 for Devil, almost into 115s. Great lap. Callum up into P2 with 16.483, jumps into second place ahead of Leper. Tap with another improvement up into P4 with 17.437. So far, he is the leading Toyota GR86. Unfortunately, encounters some traffic in form of SBY. Is he on the flying lap? Looks like he is, but it's the responsibility of the driver behind to make sure that they've got a clear space ahead of him. So we'll see how Tap approaches the situation. Oh, big slide from SBY going to the second sector. It's one of the trickiest parts of this track, but he still might find some improvement. His current personal best of 118.0, which is not that fast compared to other times that we've been seeing thus far. Yeah, 2.5, more than 2.5 tenths down through 2 sectors, but he still might find an improvement here. Not really pulling away from Tap. He might choose to let him go here, but I think it's actually Tap who decided to slow down. Good decision. Devil with another improvement with 115.8. An improvement after an improvement. Currently almost 7/10 clear of P2. That's what no extra ballast gives you. From what I heard, this car is built basically solely for straight line speed. So it's a no-brainer that Devil is doing very well around here. For now, at least. We'll see how others, if they manage to mount any sort of challenge to the Honda 180 SX of Devil. But so far, clear of anyone else at the top of the standings. Let's see if Callum is going to be improving through the first 2 sectors. The answer is no. He does have some traffic ahead in the form of blue Honda NSX. But sometimes having a car ahead is actually beneficial to your lap times. There are drivers who are much faster when they're following somebody. Obviously, these cars are not going to produce pretty much any dirty air. So you will be fine following just behind. And actually, you might pick up a little bit of a slipstream advantage down this main straight. Callum up to the line. No improvement this lap, unfortunately. Same for Leper. What about Sig? Oh, 0.5 behind top 3. His personal best lap coming last time around was 16.617. We've seen improvements from Tap and SBY, but no position changes. Is Sig going to improve this lap? No. Probably serving a penalty on this lap. SBY 9/10 behind P5, a driver that we've constantly seen in the top 3 or at least top 4 in the first 2 rounds. Struggling quite a bit at the moment. We'll see if he's going to be able to find some pace, but 17.9 is not the lap that he wanted to have. He's probably going to be leaving soon because he can't stay for the whole duration of the time session. Yep, there you go. So 17.8 is his best lap. We'll see where it puts him at the end of the session. Ruben, very solid showing with P4, I believe, last week around Brands Hatch. So far with 119 dead in P6, quite far away from the leaders. Let's see how he does on this lap. Small improvement, well, actually quite a sizable improvement of half a second, but still long way behind even P5. 1.4 seconds he needs to find in order to improve his position. We'll see if he manages to do that. We are probably going to see a first round of pit stops very soon. Leper actually purple through sector 1. That is a good setup for the fast lap of the session. Very brave through the right hand after the downhill section. As I was saying, we're probably going to see the first round of pit stops very soon, since we are closing in on a 10 minutes mark. Just going to mark the first third of the time session. Not a strong sector 2 for Leper. We'll see if he can recover some time in the final sector. I think he does have a little bit of a traffic up ahead, but nothing too major. Yeah, they're not going to be in the way. Through the final corner, flat out right-hander through the tunnel. Devil with another improvement, extending his lead. Seems to be untouchable at the moment. See if Leper has anything to say about it. Yeah, it looks like first sector is very strong for Leper, but the rest of the track, he can't really hook up at the moment. Sitting a whole second behind P1. And actually Callum is in P2, but 9/10 of a second. Just for reference, everyone. In the first round, the gap between P1 and P2 was half a tenth. And today, well, at least for now, the gap is almost a second. That is a huge difference. Let's see if anyone is going to come close to Devil's time with 1:15.583. That is an extraordinary fast lap. Is he going to improve on this lap as well? Stays as close to the wall as possible to minimize the distance traveled. Up to the line. Looks like Callum is deploying all of the possible tactics to slow Devil down, but Devil disagrees completely. 15.428. Pushing the lead over 1 second. At this point, I don't think realistically anyone is going to beat that. Ruben with a small improvement on his personal best, 118.115. Still needs to find a whole second to jump up a position. Tap with a very, very, very solid showing. Well, not touching the wall right there, but overall, so far in the session, 117.0. Very solid lap. Still 1.6 seconds away from P1, but it is noticeable that the gaps are much, much bigger around a track like this. Still a very, very good drive to be in P5. Leper fresh out of the pits with a new set of tyres. Callum is on the flying lap. Is there going to be an improvement through sector 1? There is, but only on his personal best, so not purple. Devil entered the pits with less than 70% fuel left. If you are just joining us, welcome to the round number 3 of the Time Attack Championship. We are almost halfway through the timed session. Oh, beautiful backfire there from the Alpine. Current leader, Devil, in the Nissan 180SX with a huge lead. The biggest lead we've seen thus far this season. Previous biggest win margin being, if I remember correctly, around 4/10. In the first round, the top two were separated by half a tenth. But tonight it seems like Devil decided to change the trend a little bit and is currently destroying the opposition. But obviously it is important to remember that Devil is not carrying any ballast, while Callum in P2 also doesn't, due to being disqualified last round. But Leper is currently in P3 carrying 100 kilograms of success ballast. So Devil is really in the best position you might be. Already a very fast driver in a very fast car and no success ballast due to missing round 2. So that is probably the best situation you can find yourself in. Obviously missing rounds is not ideal for a championship situation, but if you take one round at a time, it doesn't get better than this. Through Sector 2 goes Callum. Very minor improvement on the personal best time. Still following closely behind Leper. Wonder if it is helping or distracting him. But I'm pretty sure if it was distracting him, he would have backed off. Some drivers do find more time while following other cars. Through the final flat-out tunnel section. Up to the line he goes. Is he going to be able to pick up some slipstream from the NSX of Leopard? Decides not to. Probably not close enough. Stays as close to the line as possible. No improvement. 16.5 on the previous lap. Leper. I think this is going to be his first flying lap after coming to the pits. Actually, his second flying lap. Let's see how he does through the first sector. Very scary. First downhill S section. Slightly down on his personal best, but it all might change through the rest of the track. Oh, a big slide through the right-hander and slams into the wall. That is certainly not going to help your lap times. But you never know. I don't believe wall riding is the fastest way around this track. And the timer agrees with me, half a second down on his personal best. Sig has been in P4 for this whole session, pretty much. Only half a tenth away from that podium position, but just unable to find that little bit of time to jump into the top 3. Yeah, that Ferrari is proving to be a handful to drive, especially around here. Through the tight, technical infield, so to speak, part of the track. Picks up 1.5 seconds worth of penalties. Tap still in P5 through the second sector. Split improves by half a tenth. Slowly but surely he is bridging that gap to Sig. Considering how quiet of a season Tap has had so far, that is a very good position to find himself in. Up to the line he goes. Or just about doesn't improve. What kind of top speed does he reach? 234 kilometers an hour. I'm very curious to see what kind of top speed Devil is going to get, because that's going to give us an understanding of where he is faster. Is it top end? Is it handling? Let's see. So Tap's top speed was 234 kilometers an hour. Let's see what top speed Devil reaches in the Nissan 180SX. 227. So it looks like the top speed isn't the deciding factor after all. Even though the car does sit quite high off the ground, Callum with an improvement of 116.339 brings the gap down to below 1 second. In this situation, it is a big achievement. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a big deal with the pace that Devil has. Still, even though the car sits quite high off the ground and the suspension does seem to be very soft, the car looks planted. Devil seems to be in full control of the car. This lap is 7 tenths down on his personal best, but overall, car seems to be very planted, even though you wouldn't expect it to be with that ride height and that suspension. Oh, Tap with a big improvement into the 116s, 116.892. Just under 3 tenths away from P4. Slowly but surely he is closing in on the top 4, just slightly grazing the wall there on the exit of turn 1. through the first sector. Here goes. Purple by 0.06 of a second. Let's see if he's going to be able to put this lap together. Very clean so far. Oh, well, that is certainly not clean. The commentator's curse is definitely real, even in the Time Attack Championship. What about Sig? His personal best lap came on lap number 5. We are almost into the final stages of the time session. He's done, well, it's going to be lap number 14 for him. Coming out of the penultimate corner, grazing the wall there slightly, probably not going to be an improvement due to that. But it is interesting to see. I've noticed this trend with many drivers. They do seem to set their best laps at the very start of the session. And then later on, even with the fuel coming out of the car, they're just unable to find an improvement. I think same for Leper. Yeah, his personal best was in the first 5 laps of the session. Oh, that is a sketchy place to let another car by, but they managed to sort it out without any sort of issues. Yeah, same for Leper. Personal best during the first 5 laps of the session, and then nothing. The car is 50%, well, not 50% lighter, but there's 50% less fuel in the car. Obviously making the car way lighter than it was at the very beginning of the session, but it doesn't translate into lap time by the looks of it. Callum up to the line. Very, very consistent lap times. Is it going to be an improvement? Not quite. 0.2 down. We see another pit stop window, so to speak, open for the drivers, as we are into the final 10 minutes of a 30-minute session. Devil still sits at the very top, very, very high up, with a 9/10 gap to P2. At this moment, it seems like Devil is going to be untouchable there, but there's still a very close fight going on for the top 3. As I said that, Sig finally with an improvement. Oh, that wasn't ideal, with Devil leaving the pits there right in front of Sig. But 16.507 for Sig, pushes himself up into that podium position, just over half a tenth ahead of Leper. Ruben currently in P6 in the session, starting another flying lap in the BMW. From what I saw, this BMW desperately lacks power, so it's probably the main reason for him being that far away from the leader Callum, with another tiny improvement. That's what we've seen from Callum this whole season. Very consistent laps, tiny improvements every single lap, but over the course of the session he's constantly improving, which doesn't seem to be the case for the other drivers. They probably went with a different approach to cars, because we've spoken about this whole season. There are different approaches you can take to building and tuning your car. You can either go in the direction in which Callum went when building a very consistent car, in which you can put a lap after lap, or you can go with something that probably Sig decided to do with his Ferrari, which is a very one-lap wonder car. If you see his lap times, they're very, very far away from each other, but then there's one perfect lap that he nails, that pushes himself in a good position. But then he basically improved only twice this session. I mean, any meaningful improvement. So there's one best lap on lap number 5, another best lap on lap number 15, but apart from it, laps that are very, very far away from that personal best. Ruben with another improvement, almost into 1/17s. Still full second away from Tap, who is just over 3/10 behind P4. Looks like the closest battle we have is actually between Leper and Sig for that final podium position. Leper on the flying lap currently. We'll see if it's any good. Around the penultimate corner, very crucial to get a ride. Oh, very clean on the exit. On the power as early as possible. No wheel spin whatsoever. Certainly going to maximize his top speed here. Let's actually see what kind of top speed he reaches. We know the top speed of Devil of 227. Oh, and there we have it. An improvement from Leper. 116.3437. just about moves into the third position. We have it back and forth here between Leper in Honda NSX and Sick in the Ferrari 512BB. The closest five we have. Still purple through the first sector, but it seems like the handling of the Honda... Why do I keep saying Honda over Nissan 180SX is just superior to every other car here on the grid? Because I've seen many drivers go purple through Sector 1, but just unable to put a competitive lap compared to Devil together. But still, 2.5 tenths up on his personal best Leper is at the moment. If he continues with this improvement, it is going to push him into P2 for the first time since the very beginning of the session. Callum has been sort of untouchable in that P2, but it all might change here with this lap number 18 for Leper. Very good exit out of the final or penultimate corner. Let's see what it's going to be on the run up to the line. 1.5 tenths of improvement, half a tenth ahead of P3, jumps into P2, just ahead of the Alpine of Callum, who is in the flying lap as well. There was an improvement by Tap, just not enough to get himself up into P4, but 116.520 is a very good lap. He's pushing very hard, looking at his car. There are a few dents and scratches here and there, but that's the beauty of Time Attack Championship. You only need that one perfect lap. So, we have a very close fight between P2, P3 and P4. They're all separated by just over 2 tenths. Sick, navigating his way through Sector 1 at the moment. Downhill, very fast section. First sector. There was no split. It might be an outlap. The game just doesn't show it. Yeah, looking at his tires, it is his outlap. Callum up to the line on the fresh set of tires as well. And no improvement at the moment. Still half a tenth away from that P2. These two, Callum and Leper, had a very tight fight last week around Brands Hatch. And if not for Devil, this would have been a fight for P1 as well, but Devil running away with it with the best lap on 115.428, the only drive into 115s, leading by 8.5 tenths. Leper with another penalty, unfortunately. Let's see what Callum does through the second sector. He does have Devil right ahead of him. Don't know if it's going to help him. Minor improvement, but there is still the whole last sector to go. That Nissan is very loud, and I love it. Right, around the final hairpin. Oh, very good exit out of that penultimate corner. Early on the power, no wheel spin whatsoever. Up to the line, he is going to get maybe a little bit of a slipstream advantage here from Devil, maybe a tiny bit. Up to the line he goes. Oh, no improvement, half a tenth down his personal best. What about Sick? Going through sector 2 at the moment. Is there going to be an improvement? No. What about Tap? He is actually in this contention. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about him. He's still in this contention for top 2 basically. If he finds 2 tenths, just over 2 tenths of an improvement, he is going to be in P2. So all this group of 4 cars is very close to each other. We'll see how Tap navigates that final corner. Nice and early on the power, but big slide. That is not going to do well to your top speed here, to your acceleration here. But we did see Tap be probably the fastest car in a straight line in the session. So it's certainly going to help. Up to the line he goes. But it's probably not going to be an improvement. Yeah, 7 tenths down. Ruben is not having a great time here. Has front lap damage on the car. We are into the final 2 minutes of the session. Leper around the final corner through the tunnel. Is this going to be an improvement to make his P2 a lot more secure? than it is at the moment, only half a tenth ahead of P3. That was probably a penalty serving lap. Callum out of turn 1. Oh, with damage on the front left. He probably doesn't have time. That's probably it for Callum. He doesn't have time to come in and fix it. So Callum is out of this fight. He's still in P3, but he's not going to be able to find an improvement unless he somehow does with damaged car, but I highly doubt it is possible. Sick. Probably done for the session as well. Only 1 minute left. He's not going to have enough time for another lap. So it's all about Leper and Tap at the moment. Tap up to the line. Was this a good lap? I was not quite good enough. Still in P5 Leper. We got 30 seconds left in the session. Is he going to be able to start another lap? Yes, he is. So Tap is on his final lap right now. Leper is on his penultimate lap, going to be starting the final lap of the session for him shortly. No improvement for Devil. Up to the line goes Leper. Is that improvement? Not quite, but this is the final lap. Is he going to be able to secure... Well, he is, because Tap is in the wall. So there is no contention for that P2 for Leper. So it is basically a parade lap for him. For sector 1, no improvement. So it looks like the finishing positions are going to be as they are right now. Devil on his final lap. Rounding the final corner. There is a car stationary on the out of the racing line. Thankfully, that was Ruben off the track for some reason. But Devil has absolutely destroyed the opposition in the round number 3 of the Time Attack Championship around Grand Valley South. 8.5 tenths clear of P2. Very deserved win for Devil in the Nissan 180SX. Well done. Maximum points for him. Leper is going to come across the line in a very, very close fight for P2, but he is going to take that second position ahead of Callum. Less than half a tenth behind P2. Sick in P4 in the Ferrari 512BB. And Tap in a very, very close fight for that P2. Finishes in P5, only 2.5 tenths behind P2. 0.013 behind P4, only a tiny improvement away from improving his position. And Ruben in P6, maybe even a little bit lower down. We will confirm where SBY finished because he did have to leave the session earlier. And KC with a quite slow lap, 5.4 seconds behind the leader. And there we have it. Let's take a look at the results. Devil, 1 minute 15.428. The prediction in the live chat was about whether the fastest lap is going to be faster than 1:17. Well, Devil has certainly given you an answer to that in P2 Leper, with still a very, very good lap, 1:16.278. Callum in P3, 1:16.327. So SBY with the best lap of 17.9. That is going to put him in P6. So sick. In P4, just off the podium with 1:16.507. Very close behind Tap. Very, very good job from him this week in the Toyota GR86, 16.520. P6 is SBY in the second Alpine, 1:17.958. P7 for Ruben in the BMW, and P8 for KC. Let's end the race to save that replay. Hopefully drivers recorded their TRCC. Let's save the replay. Let's make sure that it is saved. All right, and that was round number 3 of the Time Attack Championship. Huge congratulations to Devil on his very well-deserved P1 with a huge advantage over the rest of the grid. And the season is coming to an end. Next week, we are going to be driving around Suzuka East on 7th of April. Same place, same time. I hope to see you there. We'll see if it is a close fight for the championship. Once the standings are updated, I will obviously keep you guys updated before the start of the final round of the Time Attack Championship. In the meantime, thank you all for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed all the action of Time Attack Championship. As I mentioned, next time I'm going to see you next week, the same place, same time, for the season finale of the exhibition season of the Time Attack Championship. Thank you all for watching once again. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next time.